Hey everybody, this video is part of our full-length The Onside Kick podcast. You can find that on Blog Talk Radio, iTunes. You can pretty much find it anywhere, so we don't care where you listen. Just stick around and check it out.
And Mark, we're going to move on into our next topic, and we're going to be talking NFL draft for the rest of the show, rest of the podcast here. This is our favorite topic coming up until May because we've got the NFL draft. We love it. We know you guys love it at home on YouTube and Blog Talk Radio, iTunes, and Stitcher. And we're going to do an interesting thing today. For the safeties, we did this in the NBA on the fast break. We did this for the number 1, number 2 pick at the time, the two guys. Usually we do, here's the number 1 safety. Here's the number 2 safety, Malik Hooker and Jonathan Allen. Well, for the defensive line, we already know who number 1 is. Let's be honest. It's going to be Myles Garrett. He's the top defensive end in this draft. However, we've got kind of a debate going on because Todd McShay, I'm not revealing anything with yours. You got to go down to the description to see what Mark is doing with his mock draft. But Todd McShay, number 2, I asked this question too when we talked about Solomon Thomas. I said, could he rise to the number 2 pick? Well, Todd McShay has Solomon Thomas going to the 49ers. And Mark, this entire segment's going to be 2 versus 3. I'm asking you, if you are the 49ers, are you taking Jonathan Allen or are you taking Solomon Thomas? Which one's the better end to you?
See, this is a really hard question. Both these guys are players who in college are better in the interior. They're better interior linemen. But for the NFL, they're kind of being projected to move outside, which is a little unfortunate because everyone talks about that bowl game against North Carolina for Solomon Thomas. And when he really was disrupting and making life hell for Mitch Trubisky.
Mitch Trubisky. I thought it was Michael Trubisky now.
Mike, our good buddy Michael Trubisky, for all the fans at home.
He really knows how to say it. Don't tell him in the comment section.
Yeah. Guys, I got this. So for making Michael's life pretty difficult, he's doing it all from defensive tackle. He's doing it from the inside for the most part. And same thing, of course, with Allen is, being pretty good on the inside. The problem is these guys are both small, one in height, one in weight. And that's the big fear that people have is these guys are not going to be able to do the things they did in college. And I will rant and rave about how Solomon Thomas is a freak athlete, and I would love to have him on my favorite team of the Chicago Bears. The problem is, I don't think that they're going to be as productive in college as they were as productive in the NFL as they were in college. If I had to take one of these guys, to answer your question, I'm taking Solomon Thomas. I think he's put up obviously better combine numbers. He is very impressive. He shows that he had the ability to change the game on his own. Jonathan Allen, of course, had the best team, second best team in the country. They didn't win the championship. So he had a lot of NFL level talent, where Solomon Thomas does not have that same amount of NFL level talent surrounding him. So that kind of leads me to Thomas as well. Of course, the strength of schedule. I don't know this for a fact, so I might be wrong, but I'm assuming that Alabama's strength of schedule is a lot.
Well, the Pac
is just better.
The Pac-12 is a little less. It's one of those things where Alabama is a better team, but the SEC is a lot better of a football conference than the Pac-12.
Now, I will say that, and you guys might be able to figure this out from my draft, I am not putting that much weight into the arthritis in his shoulders for Jonathan Allen. I do not believe that is going to drop him as far as people are kind of thinking he might.
And the one thing because on the Behind the Pen, when me and Dave talked about it, we had a comment saying, well, you know what, you guys, it's a major red flag. If only you had arthritis. Yeah. You have arthritis. You know what you're talking about.
I've lived with arthritis my entire life. And that is a thing. There are many people who, I shouldn't say many, there are people who get arthritis. It's called juvenile arthritis because they get it when they're a kid and they have it for their entire life. So I greatly understand arthritis. I am not a football player, but I can still understand arthritis. And yeah, it does suck. It does not mean that your life is gone forever. In fact, physical activity can often actually help you because you are using those joints. The whole reason I joined martial arts was because I was able to then use those joints that would otherwise not be flexible. In fact, when I was a young little child, there were times where my knees literally would not move. They were locked. So these things can happen. And the flip side of that, though, is arthritis does not get better. You can use those and get your joints ready and used to the movement and stuff like that. And athletic activity does help. At the same time, arthritis does not get better. It's a Terminator. You can just slow down how badly it can get, or slow down the worst of it. But at the same time, and I think you said that this was Dave Oster's point, maybe not on the roster. I'm sorry, not on the podcast potentially. But if an NFL team can get 5, 6, 7 years out of them, they're happy.
Yeah, no, that's exactly. And the way Dave said it was, it's one of those things where, of course, we'd like to think like, oh, everyone's a human being, but
they care.
No,
yeah.
Really, a team, it's kind of like if they can get 6 to 7 years out of a player, they're happy.
Yeah.
They're happy. It's one of those things where it's kind of like you think of them more as property than a player. I know we don't like to think about that kind of a thing, but to a team, it's like, yeah, no, if I can get 7 years out of him, okay, I'm good. He gave me 7 good years.
If he helps you win some games, if he helps you get to the playoffs, you're happy with him. And I think that one thing that everybody is overlooking, they're talking about the arthritis, and they're talking about how he didn't do that great in his combine. And that definitely is damning that he didn't do very well in his combine.
Well, and it really helped that Solomon Thomas
was a fucking knockout.
On the bench press, on the high jump, on the cone drill, and on the 20-yard shuttle.
Best.
Top performer in all those.
But one of the things that people are ignoring is that team doctors checked out Jonathan Allen, and they said he's good to go. They said he's fine. You do not need to be concerned.
That's good enough for me, right?
Yeah, I mean, and it's not like these are, this just might be some quack doctor that he found. No, these are NFL team doctors. These are the teams, the guys that they trust when they are making these decisions. He is not going to drop as far as he will. The person who I think might not go as high as people are saying is Solomon Thomas. From what I have heard, NFL scouts for these NFL teams are saying that we love the guy, we just don't think he's as good as you guys are saying he is.
It's one of the things where the first thing I look at is the measurables. And both from the combine, from NFL.com, and their profiles, here are the measurables that we have. They're both 6'3". The arm length, Solomon Thomas has an arm length of 33 inches. We have Jonathan Allen at 33 and 5/8. So a little bit longer of an arm, not by much, like 5/8 of an inch isn't a huge difference, but it's still a longer arm. Jonathan Allen has an additional 13 pounds on him on that frame. It's not like just, he's got 13 more pounds of fat like
He's got a little bit more gut.
No, he's got 13 more pounds of build on him. And then when it comes to the hands, they both have 9 and 3/8 inch big hands. Those are big fucking bear paws that those two guys have. And to me, if I was picking, despite the arthritis, if I was picking at number 2, I would go with Jonathan Allen. And the reason being is the thing that jumps out to me when looking at Solomon Thomas, and they even have it here on the scouting report for him on NFL.com. I'm going to read it, quote it, considered a tweener by scouts. That's something as a defensive lineman. It's one of those things where it's like,
you don't want to hear that.
It's not a death sentence. Like, Solomon Thomas can't play in the league. But to me, that's a guy that it's going to be, you're going to have to work really hard to bulk up a little bit. You're going to have to get up to size when you're going up against big NFL type offensive linemen.
Especially, and that's part of the reason why people are trying to move him to the outside. They don't think he can handle being in the inside. When he was successful, when he was probably most successful in college ball.
Well, and that's the big thing to me is if he can go ahead and bulk up, fine. You know what? Take him at number 2. You think he's better. I'm going with Jonathan Allen. He's got more size on him. He's got a little bit longer of an arm, and I know that you might say, Ricky, 5/8 isn't that big of a difference. it is to me. A
It might
longer
be,
arm is
yeah.
a longer arm.
Especially if you're on the outside.
Especially when you got to do that swing move around and you're reaching for the ball. That's 5/8 more closer to the ball that he's going to get.
It's a game of inches.
With the reach outside. Hey, it's even a game of 5/8 inches if
Yeah.
we're talking about this. But the thing is, I'm going to ask you this. Do you think that Solomon Thomas, with his size, that it's one of those things where it's like, I don't want him going up against guards on the inside. I want him trying to go up against those smaller tackles?
Yeah, I wouldn't. I mean, unless he's going to get help, I wouldn't want him going up against guards. I would want him to be able to be flashy. But the problem, like I said, is that's not when he's been his best. He's been his best on the inside. So if I have Solomon Thomas, the first thing I'm saying is, all right, boy, let's put some meat on those bones. Let's get some extra muscle. Let's get some fat on there as well. Get that nice combo there. You got to get something because you got to get this guy in the position where he's going to succeed best. Because if he gets double teamed ever, he's never going to win that battle. Honestly, though, that's kind of a complaint with Jonathan Allen as well. If he's getting double teamed in the NFL, he is not going to win that battle. He's going to have trouble. I think both these guys need to have some changes before they become really successful in the NFL. This is not changes that are impossible and are never going to happen. They both can easily put on some muscle, put on some fat, put on that weight, bulk up so that way they can be successful. For the NFL teams, it's just a question of which one of these guys do you think is going to be better at it. And I still, even though I said earlier I would take Solomon Thomas because I'm going off of the combine scores, what I've seen from him, injury scares from Allen, even though I think they are much overrated. So I think that
Doctors tell me he's okay.
yeah,
I'll
doctor
draft him.
tells me he's okay. That guy knows what he's talking about. That's what we pay him for. So I would take Solomon Thomas first. However, I do think that number 2 overall, like McShay is saying, too high for Solomon Thomas.
I'm going to read you 2 quotes for both Allen and Thomas, and I want you to guess. I'm going to read both of them. The fans at home, here, I'll ask you this. Should they play along with you and guess who is which? Here's quote number 1, and these are one is from the director of scouting for an AFC team, the other is for NFC director of player personnel. Here are the 2 quotes that NFL.com has on these 2 from the source. The first one is, and I quote, "He's damn good. I don't think he gets drafted as early as you do because he's not big enough for inside and he's not as long as you like on the outside. You have to figure out where you will play him, but he won't stop. He's going to be really productive." That's quote number 1. Quote 2 is, "He's a really talented pass rusher, but he's always been surrounded by enough talent that it's been hard for offenses to game plan their protection for him. He's skilled and very fundamentally sound, but I just worry about his size and how he holds up to NFL running games." End quote. This should be very easy, but who was who?
Your first one's Solomon Thomas. Your second one is Jonathan Allen. The talent around him gives it away. The bulking up for both of them is an issue. And then Solomon Thomas is, not as high as you think.
And that is exactly what you said. That's why I wanted to read it, because that quote, they said exactly what you said. Literally, I don't think he gets drafted as early as you do.
Yeah.
That's it. And that's coming from a director of scouting for an AFC team. Coming right from the horse's mouth.
Yeah, I mean, no one's doubting that these players are good. No one's doubting that they can be great and they can have fantastic NFL careers. It's just one of those things where there's a lot of talent in this draft, and maybe someone like Solomon Thomas is kind of getting forced to be higher than he should be, and the hype will be much. But you know what?
Do you think the combine performance kind of did that when you're
I think that did.
When you're the top performer in bench press, high jump,
I think it's a
shuttle?
little bit of a combination of that. Sudden injury scares with Jonathan Allen, and people are still high on that bowl game. Solomon Thomas, for many people, was not even in the first round of their draft, their first mock draft that they did before that bowl game. He has a bowl game, and suddenly everyone throws him in there. Is basically what happened. So that's just what that's what this time of the year is. It's all about hype.
I'm going to ask you this, and the only reason I'm asking you this is because you are a Bears fan, and we have to throw our weekly Bears question in there for Mark each and every week. Let's say Todd McShay's draft does hold, and we get Myles Garrett 1, Solomon Thomas number 2. I'm putting you in the shoes of Ryan Pace. Welcome, you are now Ryan Pace.
Fantastic.
Who are you drafting at 3? Are you going to go with Todd McShay and take Jamal Adams? Or are you going to say, you know what, Jonathan Allen is there, I'm taking him?
Well, I'd probably take Malik Hooker. But if I had if I had to choose between those two, I'm going to take Adams. Not anything against Allen in that case. I just don't think Chicago Bears defensive line is not where they need it. They need help in the safety, defensive backs in general. But yeah, that'd be interesting to see 3 defensive and defensive tackles go right at the beginning.
Well, and I'm surprised that even a guy we're going to talk about next in O.J. Howard, he's at number 4, and Jonathan Allen falls to 5. And the Titans get a gift at number 5.
Yeah, there's a lot of teams that feel like this is the greatest possible situation.
I mean, the Jets would be happy if he fell. I think the Jaguar, that's the one thing I disagree, and we're going to get into O.J. Howard later, but when it comes to Allen, it's one of those things where I feel like either Allen or Thomas, if they're available at 4, I think Jacksonville snags them. More so Allen than Thomas, but it's one of those things. If Jonathan Allen's there at 4, I think the Jaguars go, yeah, you know what? Let's do it. Let's take him here. We can always get the tight end later.
Well, yeah, getting a tight end that early is ridiculous. We'll get to it in just a little bit. But yeah, I think any of these teams are going to be hard-pressed to pass up on a guy like Jonathan Allen.
Well, and any last things, I know that we've talked about Thomas, Allen. I'm just going to one last time. If you have to pick, we're putting it out there, Thomas and Allen, who are you going with?
Right now, I'm probably going to take Solomon Thomas, even though I've said that I think he's getting a little overrated. I still think that he can bulk up. And you know what? Something people don't really talk about that much, but why can't he be an outside linebacker either? Why can't he stand up instead of keeping a hand down? I think Solomon Thomas is enough of a freak athlete to where you have more versatility. Jonathan Allen, you need him to bulk up to become that interior lineman, and that's pretty much all. He's got that one option for you.
I'm gonna go against you. I'm gonna go Jonathan Allen only because I know he had so much talent around him at Alabama, but he is a guy to me. It's one of those things where we've talked about it before. He can in a 4-3. He can be the guy on the outside for you. I think in a 3-4, he can be the guy in the interior. He can kind of do both for you. You can kind of put him where you need. He's got a little bit more versatility. With Thomas, he can do the same thing, but it's all about bulking up. And I know Jonathan Allen's got to bulk up a little, but Solomon Thomas, usually when it's bulk up, I look at it and go, yeah, that's not something that's a really red flag because it's possible. That comes down to the determination and how are you going to hit the weight room and are you going to put in your work. That's what it comes down to. But this is where you guys come in. Let us know down below what you guys think. Who would you take, Thomas, or would you take Allen? And tell us why down in the comment section.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that. And don't worry, there is plenty more where that came from. You guys can check it out right over here. Click that video, start watching it, and just stick around on Most Valuable Podcasts.